whole aspect of it gets it to react to, which is it's like a binary switch.
The damn game warden was under the bridge with his binoculars looking, and
other fish, I guarantee you, was anywhere from 10 to 12. And you know the 10XD hooks, they're like, it was a stock hook, but they're like stout, dude. It opened up a 10XD hook.
Don't ever cook bacon naked.
That's a little test, guys, I've been running. So I apologize if you guys couldn't hear that or if it sounded weird. But for those of you who haven't seen this man below me and haven't watched any of my videos where I yell out A-Bay Lure Lab at least 10 times when I catch fish, this is the mastermind behind the paint jobs on all of those baits. So I have Chris on. We don't really have any specific topic. We're just here to talk fishing and yeah.
Sounds good. What's up, Mike?
What's up, buddy? So Chris is actually coming in from his new bait shop, and I actually meant to ask you this when we were in the green room. Do you guys have the website up and running again as well, or is it still kind of restocking?
I'm still in the process of restocking. That's going to take some time because we had a lot of big orders for tackle shops and stuff like that. So I'm still pushing those last orders out before I can start doing my own stuff.
Gotcha. So the reason why I mentioned that, guys, is if you're looking for, like for me, for example, there's a couple of baits that were discontinued that I had ridiculous success with. And I was like, damn, I can't find these things. I don't want to spend eBay prices buying used ones that come with crappy hardware or all rusted to crap. This is the guy that you send him a photo and say, hey, can you make me this and can you modify it? This is the way to go. Contact Chris and he will hook you up. That's something that I highly recommend because I know a lot of guys have that favorite crankbait that they're afraid to throw because it's the last one in their box and they can't get it anymore. Well, this is the way to get a little bit more stockpile because I know I probably have 6 or 7 of that purple color that I had you make for me that I couldn't get anymore, that now I got a whole arsenal of those things so I don't have to worry about losing them.
Yeah, I actually painted one of those for myself. I cut a couple smallies on it.
It's a great smallie color.
Yeah, I've never seen that pattern before.
But yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Chris lives near a lake that many bass fishermen may have heard of called the St. Lawrence River. I guess it's not really a lake, it's a waterway, but few people might have heard of it. So
yeah. Well, we're not far from Lake Ontario either.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I don't really fish the lake much anymore. I kind of got out of the big boat and started doing the whole kayak thing for the last 2 seasons. And holy hell, man, I enjoy the shit out of that. That's been so much fun.
So that was something that I actually wanted to talk about too, is so you got yourself an Old Town. He actually called me, guys. So it's funny because I've become like the resource for a lot of people when it comes to kayaks. Like even Mikey Balls called me when he was getting his and he's like, dude, I'm getting a kayak. Which one should I get? But Chris went with an Old Town, very similar to mine. Now yours is the 12 foot though, right? Or is yours the 10 foot?
No, mine's a 12. Yeah.
Yours is a 12. The 12 foot, I will say, and this is something that I've said on a bunch of different lives, that 2 feet makes a hell of a difference. And it doesn't seem like it would, but the stability and the tracking on a 12-foot kayak is significantly better than a 10-foot. But that being said, those Old Towns are insanely stable. So, I mean, had you fished out of like, you had done a little bit of dabbling with like other, like borrowed kayaks from other people, right?
Yeah. Sean kind of got me into it and we were in the Native Propel, the hybrids there.
Yep.
And I wasn't really sold on the idea because those are kind of tippy-ish,
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
And it would spook me every time I'd go to reach for a rod, you know, and I was like, man, I don't know if this is for me. But by day 2, I was like, all right, this is cool. And it was just, I don't know, man, it's a different experience.
So what it is a lot of the kayaks, and that's where when you're buying a kayak, you have to think about, and I think that's why, like what you did when you called me and asked, like that's where you have to ask the right buddy, because there's some dudes that are like, you gotta buy a Hobie. Hobie's the only thing you can buy. That's it. You gotta ask people, the right questions and have somebody that's willing to be honest. The difference is if a kayak is fast, it's less stable. The Old
Yeah.
Town is not designed to be a speedboat. It's designed to take big water. It's designed to be stable when you turn around to grab stuff out behind you. It's not designed. And that being said, too, I get mine. I don't know how fast. I can pedal mine 4 miles an hour without
Oh yeah. Yep.
zero effort.
Yep.
It'll
Um,
actually start to be the drive can't go fast enough. Like it gets to the point where you're almost pedaling harder and not getting much more speed, but you can go like 4.5 with just a consistent.
yeah. I noticed that too. Like when you get into a rhythm when you're pedaling, and
Yep.
if you stay in that rhythm, you can, next thing you know, you're 2 miles down the river already.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah.
It's funny because what I did notice though with too is on the other end, if you try to pedal hard, you just cavitate and you don't actually go any faster. So it doesn't really help you to bust your butt to go faster because
No. And
once you get it going and then you just consistently pedal, you can cruise right along and not even like it doesn't take a lot of effort to move it.
no. And what I love about that is, um, I control. I put my rod holders right off the side,
Yep.
and I control for walleye and everything right off the side there. Yeah, you and Delirious kind of sold me on the Old Town because it really wasn't on my radar. And then once I started going in, I did the YouTube search,
Yep.
and I was like, okay, if I'm fishing big water, I need something that's super stable, and that thing has not let me down.
It is. So I will say I've had mine. I bought mine brand new officially bought it in 2019, took possession of it in March of 2020. I have put conservatively, like ballparking it, 20 hours a weekend from March till October since 2020. So how many ever hours that is. The
Yeah.
only problem I've had with mine was my error. I broke a prop and I broke one blade actually with Bobby in Massachusetts and
I
fished
remember
the
watching
whole
that video.
day. Yeah, and I fished the whole day with it like that. No problem. Swapped the prop the next day. And then I broke you know how like you can raise and lower the rudder with a lever?
Yep.
It broke the plastic that sits under that. So
Oh,
I can actually pull up on the rope to raise the rudder, but that handle doesn't do anything anymore. And
yeah.
I could have fixed it, but when I pulled that all apart, I'm going to need like a whole nother component. And I just am not ambitious enough to even attempt to fix it. So I just literally took the cap off the handle and I just pull on the rope and it still pulls up.
Yeah. Have you upgraded to the aluminum rudder?
I didn't, and there's a reason for that, is because for me, I knew I was going to a new kayak in a couple of years. So by the time I felt like I wanted to try it, I was like, I'm going to end up like, there's a couple of things I should do with the Old Town, and I'm not even selling it. Like, I'm not going to get rid of it. Even when I buy the new kayak, it's going to be basically a backup. But when I get the new one, I probably am going to swap the plastic rudder for a Boondocks immediately, just because, especially because I'm getting the Titan X. The way that rudder is, it's a little bit more exposed. It has a little bit more risk.
Yeah.
With the Titan rudder, it's actually in the water all the time, even when it's up. So you still could smack it on a rock, or when you come into the boat ramp, you could hit it on something, and it's a little bit more at risk of getting contacted than like my Old Town one, which is actually sitting on the back of my kayak when I'm coming.
Yeah, because everybody was telling me, especially with fishing in the river because of the current, it'll track better with the aluminum rudder.
Yep.
But I haven't had any issues at all.
So
It's just fine.
What I've noticed with mine is as time has gone on, and this might also be because I broke the whole like mechanism for raise lower. So sometimes my rudder can kind of drift out away from the kayak because it's not held tight.
Yeah.
I will lose control at times in current. And I think it's because mine's old and it's starting to flex because it's been in the sun for so long. I don't think from a control standpoint, it makes that much of a difference. It's really about, are you going to break it? Because plastic in the sun, I don't care who manufactures it and how good it is, eventually that plastic is going to break down over time and
Yeah.
it's eventually going to get weak, whereas aluminum's is not. But
Yeah, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But I also noticed the tension knobs from was that Navarre from
yep.
in those little knobs in the back that you
Yep.
can make for the rudder tension. That makes a huge difference.
So that is a big part of it. So one of the things that I made the mistake of with mine was I immediately tightened up the steering control arm,
Yeah,
and I actually dug a groove into that plastic plate underneath the turn
yeah,
because I didn't know you weren't supposed to just crank that down. So I actually dug a trench in that plastic plate. So my steering doesn't like lock. It's just
Yeah.
freewheel. If I'm in current and my hand, like if you watch me in my videos, you'll see me
yeah,
because
yeah,
I can't track straight because I can't lock that in place.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm pretty thankful. I haven't had any issues yet with it, and it's just been a shit ton of fun out there.
what
It's so different coming from like because I've been in fishing out of a big boat for the last 25 years,
Yep.
and anybody who knows me, I got problems with my legs. So being on the bow of a boat, standing up there all day, was taking a pounding. I can't do it anymore. So adjusting to the kayak was like, okay, I got limited gear. I thought I had limited gear, this and that. Now I can take whatever I want out there. Plus, I got 8 rods with me.
Yep.
I have sacrificed nothing except for going from point A to B, downriver going. It just takes me a lot longer.
So here's the thing and this is where I get a lot of hate from bass boat guys. I think every angler should start in a kayak. And the reason is because you learn to appreciate breaking down water and you learn to think about how you're going to approach water before they fish in a bass boat. Because I've done both. I get it. And I've been part of all the worlds. But what you learn in a kayak is that, yeah, the fish are on wood. But is
Yeah.
it worth that 45-minute pedal to go to that tree, or do I fish this rock first? And that's where you
Yeah.
have to like think about your boat positioning is different. And the other thing that a lot of guys don't think about until they get in a kayak is you can't work a jerkbait down. It's horizontal. Top
Yeah.
water, it's horizontal because you can't do
Yeah.
that because maybe guys that can stand might be able to do it. I am not brave enough to stand. Until I lost all the weight that I've lost, I was way too top heavy and I knew I was going to go down if I tried to stand. And it's funny because it's a weird statement too, because everybody's like, oh, don't be scared about falling in. I'm like, I'm not worried about falling in. I'm worried about the $2,000 worth of tackle that's going to end up at the bottom of the lake if I flip this over. I
Yeah.
can swim. I'm not super worried about that. I'm worried about how I secure my gear, and I don't have it in a way where if I flip over, all 5 of my FX rods are going to the bottom.
Yeah. I just
No, I
got
do.
one of those FX rods.
Did you?
Yeah. So Ryan, he gave me one of the FX rods when he was up here. He's like, dude, you got to try them because I usually fish the Doomsday JDMs,
Yep.
and he says if you like those, you'll like this. So I like using a real light rod for my drop shot. And I tell you what, it's a nice rod. I mean, but I like those Doomsday JDMs though.
As
Those-
an FX pro staffer, I will say I've handled those Doomsday rods and they're good rods. They're
Yeah.
I will say here's my personal opinion on rods, right? Yes, you can go to Walmart and you can buy a GX2 ugly stick and that will get you through. I'm not saying you need to use an FX or a Dobbins or a Doomsday. You can catch fish with any rod And honestly, when you're starting out, I don't even care what power or action. Get yourself a 7-foot something and fish it,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
just get a 7-foot rod. You don't even necessarily need to pay attention as long as you're not fishing an ultralight, because ultralight's probably one of the hardest things to learn how to cast with without blowing yourself up. But I will say, when you get into that custom tier, when you get into that Doomsday, that FX, those guys that make the rods custom production, it is different. Those rods feel different. You feel the bite different. You fight the fish different. It is an entirely it's
You feel
really
every-
hard to go back to a production, like a true production rod after that.
Yeah, and if you, I even switched my line for my drop shot setup. So I switched over to that Defiant braid,
Yep.
that 18-pound test. I don't even run a leader on that,
Yep.
and it hasn't affected my fishing at all. So, plus, I like it because I fish the ledges a lot. And with that Defiant braid, if it runs up against those zebra mussels, I got a little bit of abrasion protection there.
Yep.
And yeah, that shit's smooth as butter, man. You can feel everything.
It's crazy with like everybody has their own like nuances to it, but I will say realistically, Doomsday, they're a little bit pricey, but they're really not that bad. FX are the same way. You got to be careful with some of these custom rod manufacturers with the price, because for what you're getting for $300-400, you could get for $180 to $200. But there is a difference. I will just say, without trying to sound like an infomercial here, there is a difference between a rod that was designed for either a bait specific or technique specific, and a rod that was designed to be sensitive and light and all that. Because a lot of rods you're getting at Walmart, they were designed to be as cheap as they can manufacture them, and they can pump out 1,000 of them.
Right. And they're basically meant to be a utility rod.
Yep.
You know?
They're meant to be doing everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And those G2 ugly sticks, I use those for my frogging rods.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're not bad. And I will say they're solid, they're cheap, and they work really, really well. And that's why that's why I started my channel was, I'm pro staff for FX. Absolutely. Go use code Vinya and buy yourself an FX rod. But I'm also transparent in the sense of, I hate guys that are up here like, oh, you need to use this rod. This is the only rod. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's when you want a rod and you want to get into the detailed fishing. If you're the guy that's like, hey, I want a rod to throw 1/8 ounce Ned rigs on wood. When you get to that detail, give me a call and I'll tell you which rod to buy. If you're the guy that's like, I'm going to take a tackle box that my dad put together 20 years ago and go down to the bank and fish off the dock, take your Ugly Stick GX2 and have a grand old time.
Yeah. And my one Ugly Stick, I've had that for 16 years now.
Yep.
16, 17 years, yeah. It's beat up, it's fallen, but it still does what I need it to do. I'd still pull 7-pound largies out of the grass with it.
Yep.
No problem.
Absolutely. So you fished out of when you got your Old Town, did you immediately fish? Was that a tournament you immediately fished out of it after, or did you get to fish out of it a little bit before? Because I knew you were doing that tournament like shortly after you got it, right?
Oh no, that was the first. When I bought the kayak, I took it for a test ride the day I bought it. I loaded it up in the truck, and it sat on the truck. And I bought it on a Wednesday, and I didn't use it again till Friday, till the tournament. Yeah.
That's a hell of a way to break a kayak in, is to start with tournament fishing, huh?
Oh, freaking all or nothing, you know?
Dude, it's funny because, like you said, the rods too. I will tell you, I should show you how I rigged up that horizontal rod storage.
That makes me nervous. I was looking at those. So I got the Yak Attack box.
Yep.
And I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got 9 rod holders on it.
Yep.
So I usually take 8 with me.
Yep.
Because I'll take 2 drop shot rods. I'll take a 1/4 ounce and a 1/2 ounce. I'll take like a crankbait rod. I'll take a jerkbait rod. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I have everything kind of laid out the way that I want it, organized on my crate. So I know if I'm in deep water, I need to be going to my left side. If I'm in shallow water, I'm pulling rods from
Yep.
the right side.
It's funny how, so those are the things that I'm talking about with like starting in a kayak. So 8 seems to be, for me too, same number. I will do 9 in a tournament, but here's the thing with that 9th rod. That 9th rod is a second Wacky Rig rod for me. So it's exact same setup as my existing Wacky Rig rod, only because I run braid to leader. And when that leader gets bit by a pike, it gets nicked, I bend the hook out, something happens, I can just switch so that I don't have to retie a leader. That's the only reason I carry that 9th rod, as I'm not even really fishing it as much as just having that quick swap so I don't have to retie when I'm on a time limit. But what's crazy about kayak fishing specifically is you learn, like, in a boat, you can carry 15, 20 rods. If you really want to, it doesn't make a big deal. With a kayak, you have to learn to have rods, but also, like you said, I have a specific rod holder for my spinning rod. And the reason I do that is because the handle on the spinning rod will pull the casting rod out of the holder when I try to grab it. So it's a little bit further spaced away from the other rods so that I don't hook my casting rod. The horizontal rods are more like situational ones. So I'll have like a big swim bait. And then I'll have like a mag draft, or like actually the glide that you got me, or that I forget what it's called, but that jointed bluegill, like the single joint in it. I forget what that.
Yeah, that's just a 6-inch swim bait.
So I throw that. That'll be horizontal, and then if I feel like I need a situation where I have, those are like 4 rods that are kind of like it'll be a frog. So when I get to pads, I pull that out, I use my frog, I put it back, and then I lock it down. But yeah, if you don't put them in the same spot, then you end up doing this like weird musical chairs thing with your rods to try to get them where you want them, because you won't.
Yeah, that was the weird thing, because I was always used to just throwing them down on the deck and just picking up the next one and going. Now it's like I got to put it back, I got to clip it in, grab the other one, but I don't know. I don't know if it's the simplicity of it or the way that you're forced to break down water, because you can't cover as much water as you can on a big boat, and you have to be strategic on picking your spots where you're going to fish. Especially here on the river, there's a lot of water to cover,
right?
And the river's pretty wide. So when I pick a spot, I'm trying. I fish as much as that water as I possibly can before I'm like, okay, this place sucks, I'm packing up, going to the next one. But it's I don't know, man. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's because you sit closer to the water or what it is, but there was just something about it that intrigued me, because it was a different style of fishing that I've never done before.
So here's my thoughts on that. It's a combination of things, and this is gonna sound like, I don't know, like shaman like, but I think you're more connected to nature when you're
absolutely.
I feel like you're more mentally into the environment. I don't know why. I think it's just because you're so close to the water and you're in a small space, so you can't stand up, walk around, and move. So you really feel like you're one with your kayak. Like you feel like it's an extension of you, right?
Yeah.
The other thing. Sorry, go ahead. No, you're good.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think I connect with it because I grew up fishing out of a John boat.
Yep.
And that was just the way that we fished. And the kayak's a hell of a lot more comfortable than that John boat, I'll tell you that.
Yep. I think the other thing, and this is just maybe my own because of the way I hook set, when you fight a fish in a kayak, you feel like you're fighting a fish. In a boat, you have a lot of leverage on those fish. When you're in a kayak, your boat can turn. You're at the mercy. Like, you get a big pike, it's amazing how much a big pike will completely change the trajectory of your boat.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna send you a picture real quick. It's funny that you brought that up because I was out pike fishing this week. I got a 42 incher, and when I set the hook, he just went to the bottom, just stayed there.
Yep.
And until I lifted my rod and he knew he was hooked, he actually started pulling my kayak. I was like, oh shit.
So
But
the thing about that's one thing that you feel more when you set the hook in a kayak. So you hit that wall. And I don't know how to explain it better than that. Where when you're in a kayak, when you're in a boat, I think it's the angle and the leverage. You can set that hook. When you hit a big fish in a kayak, it almost bounces back to the fish. Like, because you are mobile. Unless you're literally pedaling backwards while you do that hook set, you kind of come forward. So you actually have to think about, that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about when they're in a kayak, is where your body is positioned when you cast in a kayak actually makes a big difference. Because if you're fishing, like for me, I'm right-handed, I reel with my left hand. So my right hand's on the rod. That's my hook set arm. If I'm casting to my right, I can't get no leverage to hook a fish like this. So I have to turn my kayak, make sure I'm facing that fish so I can really get a good hook set. Whereas in a boat, you can just kind of sidestep and set. And that's, I think, something that a lot of guys don't think about when they're in a kayak, is you really have to consider your boat positioning when you reeling your bait back, because if you're not in position, you can't get that hook set.
Yeah, I fish out of the left side of the boat because my fish finder is on the right side. Plus, I net with my left hand. So I, like, when I'm fighting or I'm getting ready to set a hook, I'll actually start backpedaling because I don't use bait casters. I use straight spinning reels.
Yep.
So it helps me take that slack out before I let him have it.
Yeah.
So I kind of, but yeah, if you look at that picture I just sent you, the size of that pike in front of that kayak.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, dude, he is not coming in my kayak. I'm going to shore to take care of him.
That is one thing I will say. That's the only thing that sucks, is when you get like a big pike, it's really hard to figure out how to, like, for me being a content creator, I want to get the photo, like I want to get the shot of the camera. And when you're in a kayak and you're holding this thing like this and you're like, I can't figure out how to get this thing into the screen, you kind of almost got to go to shore with those big monster pike to be able to get a good shot of them, because there's no good angle.
I was a little paranoid too, because the first time I went out pike fishing in the kayak, I caught, it was like a 38 incher, pretty good sized pike.
Yep.
And I grabbed him up and I was holding him up and I'm trying to take a picture of this pike. Well, he started flopping and smacked the phone right out of my hand, and in the drink it went. So I was like, oh shit. So this time I was like, nope, I'll just take a picture of him next to the kayak or something like that. Cause I had another pike that I caught that I got him into my net. He flipped out of the net, and not only did he that, but he got himself unhooked, and he's just flopping around side the kayak. And I got shorts and sandals on with those big, I was like, yeah. So I had to change the way that I kind of pike fish a little bit.
Yep.
But I think when you're out there and you do throw once or twice, it's real easy to make that adjustment on that kayak.
It is. What's crazy about it is once you get good at it, and this is where you start really perfecting it, you learn how to manipulate that rudder and forward and back pedal, and you can kind of, like, it's funny when you watch like my tournament videos with me and my teammate Bear, you'll watch us and we'll be like,
yeah,
like, we're not coordinating that. We just have been doing it for so long that we will go down a bank completely adjusting our kayaks by flipping that rudder, back pedal, forward pedal. You get, like, the cool thing about the way that kayak performs is it is stable, but you can, if you manipulate it right with that rudder in the wind, you can just basically set yourself and then just give it a couple pedals here, a couple pedals there, and parallel bank. That's one of the things that, like, I will say the Hobie, yes, has a superior ability to do that because you can literally flip your drive sideways. But the fact that I can't go immediately to reverse is the reason why you won't see me in a Hobie, because I set the
Yeah,
hook. I set the
isn't
hook like I'm trying to give that fish a concussion. And if I did that in a Hobie, I would go yeeting into the woods that I'm setting the fish on.
yeah,
Whereas, because with a Hobie, you actually have to reach down, stick your finger through a loop, and pull it to go to reverse.
right, yeah.
Whereas with any other pedal drive style, you just pump it backwards. If you actually could see, I actually thought about putting a camera on my feet specifically because I actually have watched myself when I had body cam footage back in the day where like, and it's funny because you don't, when you film yourself, you see these little weird tendencies. I don't know if it's because the rods are more sensitive or something, but I have like a weird instinct. So like I'll be fishing and I'll be reeling the fish in and then you'll see me do this. That's because the fish is biting my bait and my brain is processing it. And then I immediately backpedal and then set the hook. I don't mentally process that I did any of that. It's just completely instinctual at this point. And I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
I could reprogram my brain not to do that, which is why
yeah,
I'll
it's
end up
all,
with a pedal drive kayak. But
it's,
the one thing I will say is with the kayak, you have to think about that stuff.
yeah,
With
it's
a
all
boat,
muscle.
you just set the hook.
Yeah, no, it's all muscle memory. Once you get into a routine, you're in a routine. But I noticed with mine, especially fishing, because there's some places here on the river that have really strong current,
Yeah.
and you can almost use your pedals like spot lock. If
Yep.
you start slowly pedaling at the
Yep.
same speed of the current, you'll stay right where you're at.
Yep.
And that's the other thing. I'm yet to fish like a regular pond or lake with my kayak. The
All
only
right.
thing
So,
I've fished with it is current and 2-foot rollers. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's but no, it's a blast, dude. Uh, it's so much fun. I just can't express how much fun I have out on that thing.
It's literally, I have a $10,000 lawn ornament because my motor is down.
Yeah, that sucks.
And
Well, you
that's the
don't.
thing. Having a kayak really didn't hurt me that bad. Like,
Well,
yeah, it sucks, but I can still fish everywhere I want to fish.
don't feel bad. I mean, Christina and I have another boat that's docked at the marina. All we got to do is go down to the marina, hop on it, and go. And I've only took my big boat out like 3 times this year. You know, I other than that, I just threw the kayak in the pickup truck and off I went.
I will say the one thing is like, and this is because of the probably lack of time, but I have caught way more fish in my kayak than I ever did in my boat, even when it was running fine. And I think a lot of it has to do with me having a learning curve of fishing from a bass boat because it is a different deal. But the kayak is stealthy. Those fish don't, and up where you are, especially, you got clear water, so those fish can see you coming from a distance. A lot of places I'm fishing are, mud pits where they can't see shit. But I do feel like the noise, like just something like simple, like shutting a door in a boat. You got to think about how loud that probably is, and you walk across the deck of your boat, you stomp your foot too hard. That's
like,
got to
yeah,
make a huge doom in the water, whereas a kayak, it doesn't really have all that extra noise.
oh yeah, just like I was saying, when I grew up fishing in the John boat, especially with my dad, it's a little aluminum boat. He would be like, "Don't drag your feet, don't do this, don't," you know what I mean? Because
Yep.
he was worried about the noise that echoes down through the water column.
Yep.
But in those kayaks, you don't have to worry about that, really.
No, I mean, I've literally had fish like during a spawn. I've sat over top of fish, just look
Oh
down at
yeah,
them,
yeah.
and
I
you're
was
just looking at them. They don't care you're there.
Yeah, I was sitting on top. I was in, I don't know, about 14 or 16 feet of water. I was on a shit. There had to have been at least 20 of them. They were probably like 20-inch walleye, group
Yep.
of like juvenile walleye. I couldn't get them to hit shit, but they were right there, and they didn't care that they're just swimming
Yeah.
all over the place.
There's something about even wildlife. Like I have a reservoir that I fish in the beginning of the year because it gets busy in the middle of the year. But like I've gone up on down banks and even had deer come out and like get drinks of water and
Oh
just not
yeah,
even care that I'm there. Like even wildlife will come right out, and it's something about I think it's your low profile to the water. You're not casting a big shadow. You're not making a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So
Well, I just think it's a different, unique style of fishing. Like you have bank fishing, you have big boat fishing, john boats, kayaks. I mean,
yep,
each one presents their own set of problems. Each one has their own benefit,
yep,
and I just like to sample each technique of fishing. You know what I mean? And for the kayak, to be honest with you, I didn't think I was going to like it.
yeah,
You know, the first time I went out was on Lake George.
okay,
Um,
yep,
we went out at Lake George, and it got pretty windy. And those native propel, the hybrids, they don't have scupper plugs in them.
yep,
So we were taking rollers that were coming over the side of the boat. So Sean kind of laughed at me because I was freaking out. I'm like, dude, I'm out of here. I'm going back. So the whole time I'm pedaling back to shore, the boat was just listering to the side. And I'm like, please no waves, please no waves.
yep, yep.
Um, but it was something that I had to get used to and just get comfortable with. And once I got in that old town and was like, I could climb all over it. Even me,
It doesn't take long to adjust. That Old Town, the thing about it is it I don't know how to explain it, but there's a point, and I forget what the term is, but there's like a stopping point. When you lean to a certain side, it'll tip and then it locks. And then
Yeah,
it tips and then it locks. It's when it hits that pontoon just right, it hits a certain stopping point and it's not going any further. I've
Yeah.
gotten to the point where when I want to turn sharper, I will bank my kayak
yes,
to get it to hook core. I'll actually lean out over the rail to get it to turn sharper when I want to do a quick turn. Like
Yeah.
that's how comfortable you get with those, that you're willing to do this to make it do that so you can bank around a corner. And
Yeah.
it's just, and that's the thing is once you get comfortable in it, the only thing I will say, and I want to be very, very clear and not give people the wrong impression. If you don't feel comfortable and the water is rough, don't push it.
Oh, don't push it. Yeah.
But wear your life. I don't. And the other thing is, I wear a life jacket every time I go out.
Absolutely. Yep.
I wear it. I will literally go back home if I'm at the ramp and I don't have a life jacket. I'm going home. I'm not going to risk it and fish that day. It's just how I roll. I do it every single time I go out my kayak because I don't care how good a swimmer you are. I don't care how stable the kayak is. There's other elements that could come into play. For example, I have had more than one, and I'm going to say this and get demonetized, and I don't care, asshole wake boat blow my doors off in a kayak and give me 8-foot rollers that I have to then take sideways. And if you're not paying attention, focusing on the bank, and the next thing you know, you're doing one of these because the freaking waves are coming right at you, you could easily top over. If you hit the rock, you hit a rock at that point. There's a lot. I've ran into, have you run into something yet? Dude, I've done that like a few times where you don't realize there's a big rock and like hit the rock with your drive. I've done that a couple of times.
No, because I'm constantly, the way I got to fish the river as I'm drifting, I'm constantly looking at those contour lines on my
okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't have any surprises. Plus, you go 10 feet off of shore and you're in 30 feet of water. So
True. Yeah. I've got a couple of reservoirs by me that have like huge boulders, and at times the visibility is like zero. So I've had a few instances where I wasn't paying attention. I was focused on like just pedaling and reeling and hit that drive. Yeah. And the thing is to Old Town's test, like to basically be very complimentary. I've hit a rock at like 4 miles an hour pedaling across the lake.
Yeah.
And
the only thing
didn't even scratch the paint on the drive. So
yeah, the only thing I gotta stop doing is I'll get to the launch, I'll launch the kayak, and I just get into like a groove and I just start going with the current. Yep. You know what I mean? And I get into it, I'm not paying attention, and next thing you know, I'm 4 miles downriver. And I'm like, oh, son of a bitch, I got to pedal all the way back to the ramp.
Dude, it's amazing. You should, anybody that goes in a kayak, you should
Yeah,
clock how far you
hold on
go.
a second. Yeah, hold on a second. So last week I went out of Clayton, and anybody who's fished up here on the St. Lawrence River, Clayton's kind of wide open. It's big water. Okay. So I drifted. I was about, I don't know, a mile and a half, 2 miles from the ramp. And we were getting wind, but it was coming out of the southwest, so it wasn't too bad. Then the wind changed direction, was come directly out of the west.
Yeah.
Dude, I got pummeled on the way back to the ramp. Like that, the front of my kayak was probably a foot underwater multiple times.
Yep.
And at first I got nervous because I was like, oh shit. You know, where you're pedaling your ass off and you look down, you're only going like a mile and a half.
Yeah.
But I called Sean and I was like, hey, I think I got my cherry pop for the first time. He's like, you know, because they're always, him and Nelson, you know, they're always fishing rough water and shit like that. And I heard their scenarios, and that was the first time I was like trying to come up with an exit plan. Like, okay, I might not make it back to the ramp.
Yep.
So I think if you're new to kayaking, take it from this rookie. Yeah, pay attention to the wind.
Yeah. So I have specific, I will, when I'm going to a lake, I have specific lakes I fish for specific wind direction because of that. So you have to think about, and what the biggest key I can give you, or anyone that's watching this when they have a kayak, is if the ramp is south, fish until you get good or you feel comfortable or it's not going to be a severe wind. Fish a boat ramp if possible where the wind is going back to the ramp. Yes, it sucks. It sucks leaving. It sucks starting your day out pedaling into the wind, but it's really nice riding the current back to the ramp.
Yes, I made that adjustment pretty quick.
Yeah,
because
if you have the ability to do that, then that's what you want to do.
Yeah, because I'll go upriver as far as I can, and I'll hit a couple spots before I get tired. You know, I'll go like a mile, fish a spot, go a mile, fish a spot, and then on the way back, it's all gravy. You know,
I'll do that. I specifically do that on a couple of lakes where I will start my day just paddling my butt off, and I'll go like almost 2 miles, all the way to the other side of the lake, and then I will line up with a shoreline. And then I'll just let the current take me down the shoreline and fish it. And then when, like you said, when I want to stop and pick something apart, you nose into the wind and you just go. Yeah. And you'll basically, it's like being on a treadmill, but you literally can just pedal just like this slowly. And I've had guys, I had a lake up in Killington that I was fishing. It's like a very small pond, but guys will launch like 17-foot aluminum deep bees in there. And I don't even know how they get them in there because there's only like 6 inches of water at the ramp, but they troll for rainbows in there. Mm-hmm. And this guy with a 16-foot deep V came over to me and said, I don't know how the hell are you anchored? What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just fishing. And he goes, you're not anchored. And I'm like, no. He's like, I can't even keep my damn boat stationary with a trolling motor. How the hell are you? I'm like, I'm just pedaling, dude. Like, once you get good at it and you get it timed, you can lock yourself in and just sit there and, like you said, slowly pedal, and you'll keep yourself almost like spot lock right in position and be able to face into the wind and lock yourself around.
Yeah, I got full confidence in my rig now that, you know, I don't really worry about too much. You know, I just send it.
Scott, to answer your question, I have yet to actually fish Somerset. I've gone in there one time with Bobby. So actually, you'll like this, Chris, because I was Bobby wanted to fish this reservoir that's down south, and it is like a 1,600 acre reservoir way down in the southern part of the state. It's actually closer to Bobby than it is me. And we went there in March. And it fucking snowed the whole time we were down there. Water temps was 39 degrees. I guess it's just got smallmouth. I'm not sure if it has pike in it. But what's cool is it's national forest all the way around it. And they have essentially primitive campsites. But what they did is they actually cut out a bunch of spots, flattened them, threw the sand down, put picnic tables and fire rings, but you don't have to pay. It's just you just go, and if you get there, you can camp. It's free
Yeah.
camping. I'm actually planning on doing a tournament there for Slay Nation because I'm actually running the trail next year. I'm directing it. My plan is actually to try to do a Saturday tournament there so we can camp Saturday into Sunday and hang out. But it's a lake that Scott Vermonter has been trying to get me. He says there is pike in there. He's been trying to get me to fish because it's down by him. And every single time I go to fish it, it's kind of like what we were talking about. It was like, I want to go there, but it's a 2-hour drive and it'll be like 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And I'm like, I don't want to drive 2 hours to find out that I can't fish it.
39 degrees and snow. You couldn't ask for a better day out there pike fishing.
For pike fishing, yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. For some reason, we had a last season. We had a couple days where it was in the mid 30s. We got a little bit of snow, and I don't know what it is about pike fishing in a snowstorm, but
Yep.
they just hammer baits.
I'm planning on, my goal is to try to get little background for you guys. I'm planning on doing a video series on this, but I'll give you guys a little bit of information. Is I'm trying to get a kayak next year. Native Titan X is the one I'm trying to pick, but the goal is to try to get it at the trade show season, which is usually January to March. I want to try to get my hands on one so that I can get out as soon as ice out happens and just start, even if it's just pike fishing, even if honestly, like you said, trolling, I may even just take it out to Champlain and go troll for Lakers with it.
Yeah.
But it is, pike are genetically more predisposed to biting in the cold. Like that's why you catch pike through the ice, and they're more active actually, I think, in the cold weather than they are in
Well, they feed. They're like, okay, so it's hard to explain. So they don't fight as much in the cold
Right.
weather, but they feed more often than bass or something like that will.
right.
They'll still put up a fight. Don't get me wrong, but because of the water's so cold and their metabolism's low, that fight is only going to last so long. It's not
Right.
like, where you're getting the prime time, like 65 to 55 degrees, where, you catch a big pike, you're going to be there a while. But I'm glad you brought the trade shows up. So I don't think we will be doing shows this year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, so we've done shows the last 3 years. And this year, I don't have any stock left. Like, I got pounded this summer. So all the stuff for the online store got wiped out. All my inventory got wiped out, and everything in the regular brick and mortar store got wiped out. So it would take me 3 months to get ready for just one show. And if I
Right.
get hammered at that show, I can't do another one after that. See what I'm saying?
Well,
'Cause
and
I'm in
realistically,
between.
the first one's probably that New England show, right? That's probably the earliest one, isn't it?
I haven't ruled that one out. Dan Kinney's show in Marlboro.
Yeah.
That's a good show. You went to that with us last year.
Yep. We'll be there this year too.
Yeah. Me and Christina have been talking about doing that one. I don't know. I'm just now finishing up a project for Dark Horse Tackle.
Yep.
That was a fun project. So, have you ever seen the aggressive average anglers there
Yep.
on YouTube?
Yep.
So they're doing the December box.
Okay.
So, but I'll show you. Like, I don't know
They're
if you
doing
can.
like a takeover.
Yeah, that's like one of the. We're calling it a mid shad because what I did is I pulled up what a shad looks like from the Midwest.
Yep.
And painted that. So, and I went kind of old school patterns on these, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Like this bluegill. Like I just did a simple bluegill pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And like even the perch, I toned down the perch a little bit this time.
I would tell you guys that color right there is
That perch gets freaking demolished.
that color is solid.
And this time we're doing a crappie. And
Ooh, I like that too.
well, I did it transparent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like how that is got the clearness to it.
Yeah, and then this was the the white. So it's a bone white on the bottom and it's gold on top. And then
Yeah.
I just added a little bit of black to make it look like a kind of like a creek chub.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
but I was out throwing those. I was testing them, and dude, I can't throw them anymore because the pike are just inhaling them, like literally inhaling them.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Those are going to be in the. You said that's the December box for Dark Horse.
yeah, those will be in the December box. Yep.
Okay.
Um,
That's that. Yeah, Scott Vermonter. So that perch pattern, you do that one in pretty much every style of bait. You pretty much throw that on a lot of different stuff, right? That's that same one that you put on like the square bills and.
yeah. Actually, out of the ones I was testing, that bone white and gold, dude, this thing it was getting clobbered.
Yeah.
I took it out. Um, I did probably, I don't know, just about 15 casts with it, just to kind of make sure that they're running right, everything's good.
Yep.
And I, out of those 15 casts, I came up with 3 smallies. So I was like, okay, they're digging this. So,
Yeah, it was.
but
That's crazy, dude. That perch pattern is just crazy.
yeah, I like that perch pattern on a 6-inch swim bait. You know,
Yep.
that's my like bread and butter. That and the bluegill swim bait for post spawn when they start coming off that nest and looking for that big meal,
Yep.
and then again in the fall, right before those bass start heading out to deeper water, they're looking to chow down again before they.
That's the thing I think is funny, and I've said this before, and I've gotten some people that have like shaken their head like they don't understand what I'm saying, but people overcomplicate fall fishing because what I do in the fall is what I do in the spring.
Just slow it down.
It's the same. Like I throw the same baits and I fish the same type of area that I would during the spawn because the water temperature is basically the same thing.
Yeah,
There's a little bit more vegetation because the vegetation was there and died, whereas in the spring up here in the north, it got killed by ice and it's gone. But the baits, the speed, the presentation, I do the same thing I do during spawn in the fall.
yeah.
Everybody thinks that they have to do something totally different, but it's just the same thing.
This time of year, I throw a lot of jerk baits, and I throw a lot of lipless baits.
See, I throw lipless a ton, and you know, because that's what I've mostly ordered
Yeah.
from you. But like the thing is, and just to beat this drum a little bit, the first jerk bait fish I ever caught was one I got from him.
Yeah,
Never caught a fish on a jerk bait before. Took one of his out and fished for an hour and caught and lost my first smallmouth on it, and then hooked my first few largemouth on. And actually that perch one you sent me, I actually have a unreleased video that I haven't even edited yet, where I caught probably 8 or 10 largemouth with that perch one that you sent me. That same perch pattern that he just showed. Basically, it's the same style. It's just a little bit different. It's not the same jerk bait style. It was a little bit different. I think that was a different blank, but I forget what. I'd have to find it to figure out which one it was. But it was the same color pattern. I actually got to get some more of those. I lost the square bill.
yeah.
I had a
Here,
pike.
I'll show you this cool one right here. This is what I've been throwing for those big pike the last 2 weeks. I don't know if you can really. But
Okay. Yeah.
see how that eye glows?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the pike have been just clobbering these things.
I could see where that would work good for early spawn too. Like once they get to that feed up stage after the spawn, when they start to chow again.
Yeah, like so for me when it comes to swim baits, I'm kind of weird. So during the early part of the year, I'll use like the 5 and 6-inch hard swim baits. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like the bluegills, the crappies, that kind of style swim bait. And then in the fall, or right around September, I'll start switching over to the 7-inch glide. You know,
Yep, actually, I just saw the box. I think it's right here. I think this is the one I have those on. This is the one I was asking him which one I was talking about, guys. That one right there.
yeah, those are.
And that camera does not do it justice, but that right there is one. And if you look at it, if you think it doesn't work, look at the rash marks. That is pike and bass right there, just destroying that bait. But that's the one that I will use. Same thing, like you said, early spawn, and like I work it slow too. What's cool about those is you can just like, I don't know how to explain it because it's not probably even the right way to fish it, but I just basically cast it out and just barely retrieve it. So it's kind of doing just kind of just meandering. Like it's not really doing a big, it's just doing a slow sweep like you would a glide bait, like a chop glide.
Yeah.
And those things, like when they hit that thing though, I don't know why. I don't know if it's the rattles, the profile. They hit that thing. You better be holding on to the rod.
Yeah.
The way they hit that thing is like they punch it, man.
Oh, they hammer it. Yeah. Well, and a lot of times when you lose fish on a swim bait, it's because the way they hit it, they put so much slack in your line that you're not really burying those hooks in there. But I found like this pattern worked really good for me last year. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a rock bass.
That would I'm gonna have to have it. I might text you on that one because that
Dude, they beat those things up.
We have a lot of rock bass here. A lot of our lakes have rock bass.
And they're on the menu. Make no mistake.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, dude. That's a good point. Yeah, dude, that's one of the baits that got me into. I used to be like, nah, I'm not gonna throw a swim bait. They're not gonna hit that. And then those right there, and then you get bigger. But you actually, it's kind of your fault that I got into swim baits because you sent me a box of baits, and then I started fishing them, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like how these look in the water.
Yeah, well, what gets me is the way that they hit the bait, the way that they hammer those. When you get like a 6-7 pound largemouth, just hammer that with like ill will intention. It's like, oh shit. Yeah.
What's crazy too is it's not even for me. It's not even as much that as also like that bluegill one, right? Yeah. I threw that thing out one day and brought it back to the boat 8 times, and all 8 times, I had bluegill spawn like schooling with that bait like it was their leader.
Yeah,
like cast it out and they're swimming with it like in a school, and they're following that thing back like it's one of them. And then I cast it out again, and it's like, for drawing power, you're going to get no better drawing power than literally making your own school of bluegill to have them come back. And like, I think that's what, like, when I had the underwater camera, I had bass that were smaller than that freaking bait.
Yeah.
Locked right on that thing, following it all the way back. Like, it's not just about, it is great when you catch fish on it, don't get me wrong. But what I like to do with it too is, even if I'm not sure there's going to be a, swim bait bite, I'll throw it up the grass edges and retrieve it slowly back and see the follow. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, there's definitely bass in here. It'll draw fish in.
Yes. Well, I like doing that when there's like heavy, like hydrofoil and stuff like that. Yep. And you got a good amount of space between that and the surface of the water.
Yep.
And I'll run that swim bait just over that grass, and they'll start coming up, chasing it, or at least checking it out. And then you're like, okay, I know where they're at. I know. Yep. And then I'll go after them with like a swim jig or something. I'll follow up with that and hammer them.
My home lake, what I'll do a lot of times is I'll have a wacky rig, a Texas rig, and like you said, like a swim jig, and I'll have those ready. And it's the same thing. I have on my home lake, in about, say, mid-May to beginning of June. The grass is up about 2 feet in 4 feet of water. So you got 2 feet of water above grass. They're laying down in that grass. You bring that bait across the top of that grass and you'll see them
Yeah.
pop up and follow it. They
Yeah.
may dart back and go back in, but a lot of times they'll dart back and you'll watch them and they'll go back and they'll tuck back down in that grass. You flip that Texas rig in there, you flip that wacky rig in there. Now they're amped up. They already saw something, they were interested, they've given themselves away, and then you just throw something in front of their face and they'll smash it. So it's a great way to find fish. It's a locator as much as like that's the thing that I didn't wrap my head around when I was like, I'm going to throw this thing and I'm not going to catch any fish on it and I wasted my time. But you actually can get a lot of information by throwing those baits. And that's something that I never thought about and started doing. And now, like, I literally have a rod specifically with me at all times that I have one of those on. Just in case I find a situation where I need it.
Yeah. Well, I have one swim bait in particular that just, dude, it cleans house, and it's nothing special. It's not a big swim bait. Honest to God, it's almost like an oversized jointed square bill.
Okay. Yeah.
Here, I'll take you for a walk. It's kind of crazy, actually. So
that's the other thing I will say, guys, too, is if you ever see Chris at a trade show, you'll usually see some weird bait that he's like, hey, check this thing out, because he found some like silly blank that he painted up too.
But that,
yeah.
So it's got a bill on it. And so that one post I did on Instagram, I got some pretty good size hefty bass that I caught. I think I caught 4 or 5 of them that were, and the smallest one was 5 1/4, and they all came off of that swim bait. So I was like, oh shit, today it was a little bit of overcast in the morning, and with that being that like bone white color, that bone on bone,
yep,
I just attributed it to, okay, that's the color that we need to go with,
right?
But whether it was sunny, whether it was overcast, it didn't matter. They were just beating that thing up.
Now, do you have a bunch of those, or is that like one of those ones you kind of bought a limited set of them? Do you have those, like, or will you have those for sale, or do you have blanks for those?
I'm out of blanks now, and the ones that I have in stock are going out in an order. They're going to a lady in Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so but it's weird. Those, it's just a real slow. It's a slow retrieve.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just the way with the bill and the jointed, the way that they kind of go in the water.
It reminds me of actually, I think I have it in here. It reminds me of this bait right here. It's kind of like the same concept as this one.
Yeah, that's
it's got that like wobble to it, like it makes it hunt and swim at the same time, and it makes it look different.
Right. Well, I mean, it's giving off a great vibration. So if they're down there deep and don't see it, they're still feeling it on their lateral lines. So you got that.
Yep.
And then, it's giving off that nice swimming presentation. And then the other thing, that thing's just like, putting a chicken nugget in front of me. I'm just,
it's crazy that like, yeah. And that's the thing about, like, I don't fish swim baits any fancy way. Most of them I just chuck and retrieve. I just change my cadence. Like, I reel them a little bit faster, a little bit slower, or I'll stutter reel. I don't like do a lot with the rod action. I do most of my action imparted with my reel.
Well, I noticed with swim bait fishing, you got to try a couple different cadences.
Yep.
Until they start smacking it. Then you're like, okay, it's, crank, pause, crank, you know what I mean?
Yep.
They'll tell you what they're looking for, kind of.
And that's where, like, I think a lot of people overcomplicate it, though. They think they need to, like, do this, or they need to do something fancy. Like, I do a lot of it with just like I think what it is too is for me is like I feel the tight when the line gets tight, you can feel when that bait is like pulling
Yes.
against the line. So
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, I like how that feels when it gets to the edge. And then like you said, sometimes they want it to just be doing this, and then sometimes they want it to like be a slow sweep. The other thing I've done with that swim bait specifically, which is sneaky, and it actually makes me laugh every time it happens, is if I got a bait going and I have a fish that's like pinned on it, I'll stall it and that bait will do this.
Yep.
Boy, I don't know. It almost is like you could almost hear the fish say "fuck you" because like they come unglued.
Yeah, they'll hit it head first. Yeah.
They I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like because that bait fish is being defiant in their mind or what, but they will like you'll almost see their eyes get big and they'll just punch that bait right in the face. It is one of the things that I've started to pay attention. If you can see your bait and you see a fish, you wait till it goes out and then you stall it and it'll just, and a lot of them will do it. A lot of those jointed baits will hook back. And
yeah.
man,
What I do is,
that thing.
you can do several things with it. You can go and get it to give a tight swim, or you can do like half a reel and let it just kick out and glide. But I like spinning it really fast where what you're saying, it does that 180.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll only do that if I see like a swirl behind the bait or I think something's following it.
Yep.
I'll kind of do that just as like an integrity check. And you're absolutely right. If something's following it and you do that and it turns back around, yeah, they smoke it.
I think it's something in their pea brain that they take that as like the bait is being aggressive to them, and now they've got to accept the check. I don't know what it is. It just triggers something because I've done that. I watched them. Like I've done it in clear lakes where like I've done it with pike. I've done it with bass. I've even done it with bluegill and had bluegill do it. It's just something.
Well, just think of it as like
pissed.
That predatory instinct. If you're stalking your prey and it doesn't know that you're there, and now it does, you're either committing 100% or you're not eating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's that they just commit to it, whether they want to eat it or not. I don't know, but
when they hit, man, you got to be ready because they are going to knock slack in your line because they are going to pound that thing. They'll end up they'll hit it right on the face.
That's my two favorite things is frog fishing is number one.
Yeah.
And then throwing swim baits is, and I mean, up here, you got a short time to do that, just because you're in deeper water. The bass will stay shallow up here till probably about July, and then they'll start moving out to 12, 16 feet.
Yeah.
And once they start getting down there, it's kind of not that fun because then you got to cast it. You got to wait 5 minutes for it to sink down, and then they don't hit it as aggressive as they do when you're shallow. When they're coming out of that grass, they just explode out of that grass and just hammer it.
Yeah.
And then usually when I take those and I'm fishing for bass in a bit deeper water, they get clobbered by those monster pike. So, and then I don't want to start losing baits because I don't put a leader on it.
So I will say on that note too, guys. So not to beat this, you should buy eBay baits drum, but also
I'm just saying in baits in general.
Those baits, even then though, I will tell you guys, if you want to get into swim baits, check his stuff out once he gets his website restocked because you're not going to spend $200 on something. Like Chris is probably the most affordable. Matter of fact, at that trade show, the number one comment I got was, I can't believe these are this price. Like Chris is not trying to gouge you. He's not trying to overcharge you. The price that you pay for those baits and the quality, like that bait right there that you guys see, I've had that for 2 years. I have literally cast that against concrete, hit rocks with it. I have accidentally hit bridge pilings with it, and the clear coat that Chris puts on those baits holds up and it does not chip. You do not get baits that don't swim right. Like he tests everything. So I highly recommend if you guys are interested in getting into it, it's a great way to get into the price point is good, and you're getting custom paint jobs that you're not going to find, at a retail store, which is the other thing that I think helps.
Well, think about it this way. Like the swim baits that we do, it's like an introduction into swim baits.
Yep.
We're not selling $150 swim bait, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Like those swim baits that clutch swim baits are putting out. Do you see that advertisement that they did? They put that in the gravel and then turned the car tire on it.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. So this is like, okay, you want to try this style of fishing, but you don't want to pay $150, $200 a bait.
Exactly.
I get that. So this is something that you could try and see if you like that kind of technique or that kind of style of fishing before you want to make that $100 purchase.
That's how I got into it. And then I will say, a lot of the guys in the chat right now, you guys are from up north. I personally was adversive to getting into swim baits because, just like Chris said, the other thing that loves a glide bait and a jointed swim bait has teeth.
Yes.
They will take them from you.
Yes.
You definitely want to fish them with the right line and the right gear, but they will. I've had a couple baits that went back with a pike and I never saw them again because pike smash them. But I will say also, you'll get some monster pike on a swim bait. Those pike love a jointed swim bait for sure.
Yeah, I've had muskie follow them up, and then I'm like, please don't eat it. Please don't eat it.
Dude, I had to burn one away from a freaking loon one day.
I had that experience for the first time this summer, and that's what it was following was that white 4-inch swim bait. And dude, I couldn't believe how freaking fast they swim underwater.
Dude, I wish I had a polarized lens. I actually am looking into it for my back camera because what you don't see in that video where matter of fact, that was an A-Bay bait. As a matter of fact, it wasn't a swim bait. It was a lipless, but it was actually the last one that I had you make for me. But I was burning that thing back because that I casted, it hit the water, and then a loon head came up out of the water. And I knew as soon as his head came up, he went back down. And I started giving it all I had because I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, no loon. And what you don't see in the video is that loon was about a foot behind that bait, just coming.
Yeah, and they go fast.
And like you could not. I had to literally the last foot, I yanked it out of the water.
Yeah.
I didn't even pull it out. It actually went up over the front of the kayak, and on the other side, I almost hooked myself because he was about to get it. And you ever seen him? I don't know if you ever seen him do this, but you ever seen him swim on top of the water with the Michael Phelps swim thing?
Yeah.
I don't know what makes them. I don't know what makes them do that, but it's the funniest shit you'll ever see. They're going like this, and they're just flying across the surface of the water.
Well, you see Offspray up here do that. It'll come down and it'll grab a fish, and that fish is a little bit heavier than they were expecting it, and they'll start kind of swimming with their wings on top of the water.
Yeah,
and I think that's what those water walkers are supposed to mimic. Because I've seen that. I've seen, those little blackbirds that have the little yellow and red on their. So it was about 3 seasons ago. I saw this little bird come down on the reeds that was bent over. So he was on the reed on top of the water. This bass come up from behind him and hammered him, took that bird. And I was just blown away. I didn't know that they would eat birds like that. But then I saw another bird that fell out of a tree. I don't know if it got injured or something. And it was swimming like that on trying to go to shore. And he got picked off. And I was like, man, I'm throwing too small of baits.
What's funny is bass and perch specifically have no perception of what will actually fit in their mouth.
Oh, if it fits in their mouth, they're going to eat it.
Even if they don't have it fit, even if they don't, I will admit, they literally don't have any perception of what will fit in their mouth.
Yeah.
Because I've had perch hit 8-inch glides.
Yeah. I'm not going to say I haven't never had that happen, but yeah, they're hungry, dude. You know.
I think a lot of it too is it is, how do I word this? It is aggression. Like smallmouth. Smallmouth will hit baits that are significantly bigger than
Yeah,
they could.
well, I caught plenty of smallmouth on a 7-inch glider. So
Yeah, dude, you know what I caught freaking rock bass on them. And I don't know why they're hitting it.
well, who knows?
You know what I mean? Because like their mouth cannot even fit around that bait.
No, well, some fish can be kind of like territorial, and I think they're not trying to eat it, but they might be trying to peck at it to get it out of their area. You know, kind of like nipping at it. I could be wrong, but
It's you know what rock bass will hit a lot too, which is funny, is topwater.
oh gosh, yeah.
And they'll hit like choppos. Like I've had a 6-inch rock bass hit a 120 chopo, and I'm like, what were you gonna do when you caught this?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that confuses me. I'm like, how would you even get that?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that pisses me off up here is, I'll be using, a good size tube, just kind of like dragging that on the bottom. Those hot days where it's high pressure or something like that, and those fish are hugging the bottom. I'll just drag those tubes over the rocks, and then I'm throwing a 4.5-inch tube, and I got a 3-inch goby that decided wanted to try and eat it. It's like, what the hell? It's the same size as you.
Yeah, to perch will do that.
Yeah.
I've caught perch where I've almost had to break their jaw to get the bait out of them.
Yeah. See, what I'll do is I'll take my pliers and I'll crush down my barb. Slide it out.
Yeah, I've had to do that a few times. It's aggravating, honestly, because like sometimes I'm like, oh, I got a bite, and then you start to reel and you're like, oh, there's nothing there, and then you get it back and there's like 3 trebles in the mouth of a fish, and you're like, how the fuck did you even get this in your mouth all the way? Like, I don't understand how you even did this.
Yeah, right.
I feel bad because I'm like, I got to figure out how to get this out of you without ripping your jaw apart so that you can actually survive this. Because I have no desire to take you home. Like, I want you to just go back, but
yeah. Well, either that or you just leave them on there and use them for bait.
yeah, true. I've done that too. You ever had that happen? I had that happen one time. I think it was a lipless, right? And I had a like, I don't know, it was like a 6 or 8-inch perch on the back of a lipless, and then had a pike come eat it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
that happens a lot up here. You'll catch like a 2 or 3 pound smallie. And as you're working it up from the depths, you'll just see that big, huge white belly. The muskie will come up, and those things are weird. They're moving fast, but they look like they're just slowly gliding in the water. It's bizarre. So
yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Like I've had it happen once or twice. I actually had one time where the pike basically bit half the perch off.
Yeah.
Because it came in from behind and hit it. Because pike, I don't know if it's like maybe, and you might have seen this now that you started fishing from a kayak. It seems like pike like to hit a bait at the last minute when you're fishing from a kayak.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you casted 40 feet and I worked that thing all the way back. And then I get it 1.5 feet from my kayak, and here comes this like torpedo under my kayak and hit the bait. Well, I have it happen so many times.
Because they know that pike knows once that fish is swimming and it's in open water and that pike comes up out of the weeds behind that pike knows that fish he's done. So he can follow him as long as he wants. He can take him when he wants, because when they explode and open their mouth, even if that fish tries to take off, he's got no chance. And they know, and those pike know that.
That makes sense, actually. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, because like
Oh,
I've
yeah,
had
they
so
go-
many times. What's really cool and it's really fun, actually, as a matter of fact, I have it right here. I just happen to have my box. All my stuff's like packed up. That spook that I got from you actually at the trade show. So it was this one.
Oh yeah, that blue and black
Dude,
one.
still that right there, dude. I had a pike one time. I was just working it across the top, and you could see the dorsal fin of the pike, like come skimming across the water like every submarine torpedo movie you've ever seen, and smash that bait. Like you see the
Oh.
ripple of the fin, and you actually like Jaws style came right in and smashed it. And I've had
Yeah,
them do that so many times on frogs and like those type of baits where like it's like they come up and then they just shoot at the bait.
yeah. I've had them ruin so many spinner baits because up here when the wind's blowing, I like throwing a half-ounce spinner bait.
Yep.
I like deep sixing it and then just kind of slow rolling it. And those pike hammer them things so hard where they bend the wire,
Yep.
and it kind of screws up the way that your willow blades and stuff go.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had them ruin so many spinner baits. Like,
See,
because
it's
of that.
funny, dude. I've never caught a fish on a spinnerbait. Not once.
What?
Tried. Never
What?
caught. I have never caught one fish on a spinnerbait.
I've never caught. I've been throwing it for 3 seasons. I've not once have caught a fish on a chatterbait yet.
So when I come up to St. So next year, guys, I'm committing to it. I committed to it last year and I never ended up making it happen. But this year, I'm going up to fish with this man at some point, probably shortly after the season opens up. Because you guys, you're done till like mid-June, right, or later.
Yeah, so June 15th is when the season opens.
So I want to come up and we can try to exchange knowledge so I can try to get a fish on a spinnerbait because I have yet to catch one, dude. I've thrown everything from dollar bin ones to 6 cents ones to freaking Martin's. I've thrown every freaking spinnerbait. I've had different colors. I've thrown them in lakes that I know that literally in spots that I know there's fish that'll hit moving baits. Like I've gone to lakes specifically to try to use a spinnerbait and I've not caught a fish on one ever.
I only throw them when the weather's hot, it's windy, and those fish are deep. I've like where you're so kind of bouncing up and down because there's chop, and it's hard to get your drop shot right because the wind's blowing your line,
Yeah.
your boat's bouncing up and down. You can't really fish that bait effectively.
Right.
So I'll switch to a spinner bait, and either that or like a flutter spoon.
Yep.
And I'll just deep six it and I'll let it ricochet off the rocks. Because I even I've taken spinner baits and hooked them up like a Tokyo rig, just so they stay deep. And
Okay.
yeah, those smallmouth crush them. So I throw some weird shit. You know this,
You should see some of the crap that.
and like.
Actually.
You wouldn't be able to do it in a tournament, but I like throwing like a high-low rig.
Actually, technically, you can as long as the law, because like in Vermont, you can have 2 baited hooks. So technically,
Well,
that's 2 baited hooks.
Yeah, because I'll do like a drop shot, but instead of putting a drop shot weight on it, I'll put like a skirted jig or a tube.
Don't mind me. I'm just looking for. He was speaking of weird shit. I want to see if I can find that.
You're looking for the squid, aren't you?
No, well, that squid I have too. I got that freaking tadpole hard bait that you sent me too.
Oh, that thing gets beat up.
Where is it? I'll have to find it and post it, guys. This thing is like the weirdest looking jointed swim bait you'll ever see. It looks cool as hell in the water. I'll find it and put it in the show notes or like a photo later, guys. But that thing is like the craziest looking bait you'll ever see.
Do you want me to go see if I think I got one out here. Hold on a second. I know which one you're talking about now.
Yeah, that thing is nuts.
Yeah, I
have it in here, maybe?
Oh, you haven't seen these yet, have you, Mike? Check this thing out. You want to 10-inch lizard.
Oh, dude, that would actually get killed up here.
Yeah,
That would work good.
I've only thrown in a few things. I've never caught anything on it. It's
Dude, this is funny. Is I bought this color because of the cause that was involved in it, but this bait actually does really good in the spring.
yeah. Here, I'll see if I can find what you're looking for out here.
It's funny, dude. I'm looking in this box that I have. Like 3/4 of these are A-Bay. Half of these are yours. But I don't have that one. That's a crazy bait. Actually, I can find that jerkbait one at it too.
Yeah, so those are
What we're
the swimmers I'm talking about.
Yeah.
These bushy.
Yeah. That's more
The-
like a musky style, right? I mean, that's really what they're.
Well, it's not. It's like the Christmas tinsel instead of the rubber or the
Yeah.
silicone skirt.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Dude, I got.
So going while he's doing that, guys, this was that bait I was talking about that he sent me. That's that perch color that we're talking about. If you want a realistic looking perch jerk bait, that right there, I was killing it. But this one right here was literally the first jerk bait I ever caught a fish on, and that is again another A-Bay. But that right there, that particular perch pattern, it destroys fish like crazy.
What do you think about that one, Mike? There's a big crankbait for you.
Jesus.
Uh,
That one I don't know if I would throw. I have a swim bait rod. I could throw it, but
oh no,
it's
that's
funny, dude.
a-
I bought a swim bait rod and I've never used it.
So
I have a
Found
legit
it.
swim bait rod I don't use.
I found what you were looking for. Hey, you never got to see any of those ocean baits I did. I got.
No, I didn't. I think you may have sent me one photo. I'm not sure though.
Here,
You
I
guys
found-
should see some of the stuff he sends me though. He'll be like, "Hey, check this thing out," and I'm like, "What in the hell?" He'll send me some stuff, and I'm like, and the thing is a lot of times I think that helps though, like being weird, like it will make a
So,
bite.
This is what I think.
Yeah.
This is what you're talking about.
Yeah, check that thing out, guys.
So, yeah, that's
That thing, dude, when it swims, it is freaking money, man. It really looks good in the water.
the only thing that sucks is it only got one hook on it.
One
in the
hook
front,
makes it hard. Yep.
but and you got to reel like slow.
You can't work them fast; they'll blow out.
Yeah. But here's one of those. I painted a mackerel. I don't know if you can.
Yeah. That's
that.
similar. That's similar to the freaking spook color that I have.
Yeah, that's a striper spook.
Those are honestly those would work for Pike too. Pike would smash those.
Muskie would. Yeah, the pike up here probably would too. Yeah, the pike would probably crush those.
That's funny. All right, dude. It's 9:30. I've got to get up to go hunting, so I might have to.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it's
here
all
in a
good.
minute, but-
I gotta-
One
I
thing I
gotta be up at
recommend.
4.
Yeah, it'll be a 4 too. Yeah. So one thing we
Yeah.
will get Chris back on again later. A little sneak information is I'm going to be working with, and he doesn't even know this yet because I agreed to it and haven't talked about it in a while. But I'm going to be working on designing a bait with Chris soon that we're going to be doing a custom color. I'm going to try to do a little video series, try to record some of the conversations and get you guys some of the background of how it is to design a bait. But we're going to be doing a custom color that I'm going to try to get released, once I get it fine tuned. The goal is to try to at least get a basic plan and then come up and fish it with them on the St. Lawrence when I get up there. So that's a winter plan once he gets his stock resupplied and we can get schedules coordinated and stuff like that. But we're going to be working on a custom color. And there's some other stuff that I'm going to be trying to get done throughout the year so I can get up there. I actually would like to try to get up there a couple times, but we'll see how it all works out schedule wise. Because you're a busy man with all the. That's the thing you guys don't understand is every bait is painted by him. That's it. There's no sweatshop of little kids in the back covering all of it. It's all assembled and painted, and it's Chris and his wife, and that's it. And that's so they're a very small shop, so he has to literally touch every single bait. So you're not getting mass production, but at the same time you're getting quality, and you're getting honestly, like I said, I have a lot of his baits. 3/4 of my square bills are stuff that I've got either from trade shows or stuff that I've been like, hey dude, I need this color, can you make me 5 of them?
Yeah.
So
Well, usually I can knock them out pretty quick. I just did 250 of them for Dark Horse.
yeah.
Depends what kind of bait it is, but I love sitting down with people and designing their own custom bait. Like me and Nate Shagnon worked on a bait.
I saw that.
And that was a lot of fun. And so, because it's not something you would normally paint. So you're
Right.
learning something out of that process as well.
Yep.
And I'll say this, I paint kind of odd. I paint like an old school style, those old school colors with like a detailed kind of new age twist to it.
Yep.
And that's the best part about this is creating just custom patterns, new stuff that people haven't seen, taking those colors that work, like taking a Fire Tiger, those same colors, but just rearranging them.
Yep.
So.
And I will say, like, what that does, like your perch, right? That's a perch color. Everybody knows it's a perch color, but show me a retail bait that looks like that. It doesn't. So it's perch, but it's different enough where when you get guys like the St. Lawrence is a perfect example. Champlain for us here in Vermont. How many Strike King perch have they seen?
Yes.
20,000. How many Bandit perch have they seen? How many Livingstons have they seen? But they haven't seen that version of a perch. And that's what's cool about it is you still get the profile of the bait fish that you're looking at, or if you have a custom color that you do, what's cool about it is they haven't seen that. And a lot of times I find, in my opinion, honestly, the weird colors sometimes are the ones that, like in a tournament especially, are the ones I catch fish on. Because if I go down a bank that 4 other tournament anglers have gone down and it's a square bill bank, guess what? They've seen a square bill, and there's a good chance that the guy in front of you is throwing a color that you are going to throw. But if you have something that someone else can't throw because it's a custom painted bait, you're the only guy with that color.
Yeah.
And they're not going to, they don't get as educated, in my opinion, to the custom bait guys, because you guys have your own little touches. And honestly, every bait, I've seen a bunch of your baits. I've been at the trade shows. 5 of the same color, they're pretty close, but there is a little bit of a difference in each one because you're hand painting them. They're not exact, complete replications. Now they're really close, but there is sometimes a little dots are a little bit higher or lower, and that's something that every bait is custom, and that's what's cool about it.
And which I'm glad you kind of said that. I would like to say this. I would like to thank and show my appreciation to all the bait makers, all the bait painters, everybody who put effort into changing that industry and giving anglers something different to choose from. There's a lot of people out there that do it, but everybody contributes to the big picture. And I love that. I think that's awesome because in the past, when you go back to the 90s and stuff like that, you had slim pickings for choices. Now you can get whatever you want.
And honestly, that's what's cool about it is like, that's when you work with someone like Chris, for example. The main thing that I did with Chris, one of the first things I did was, hey, I have this bait that Bandit makes that they discontinued the color. Can you make it? And he did. And I caught fish on it. And that's what's cool is like, there's everybody has that bait that their dad had in their tackle box that they love that color, but you can't get it anymore. You can't find it. Or you have a vision in your head of, okay, man, I really wish that this bait had a different pattern down the side or had a black back instead of a green back, or like there's always that little subtle thing that when you work with someone who's creative, like, and guys, you have to understand, this doesn't take like an artistic drawing. Some of the shit I sent Chris was like paint with like me writing the word black across the top, and like I sent him like crude photos and like, dude, send me, I want this, and he'll send me back, how about this, and I'm like, exactly. Like, it's cool when you can do that, and that's what's nice about, and it's, there's a lot of like cool people that are really creative when you see like debates at trade shows. It's really fun to watch.
And see, that's what I love about it, because yeah, you might have multiple bait painters, people that are doing this, but everybody paints in their own unique style.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, say I could paint a bait and you could paint a bait. They're both going to be perch, but they're going to be different.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's the cool part about it is you different techniques, different styles. People use different shades of colors that, you know, and it all contributes to the industry, and I just think it's awesome.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, definitely, guys, check out. I guess I will definitely do once he gets some stock built up. So you guys gotta understand, the man has made so many good baits that people keep buying him out of baits, and he has to go back and make more. That tells you how good he is at it. So just saying.
Well, I
Once he
appreciate
gets once he gets his stock up, I'll post up. I'll do like a little video and maybe do a little preview of some of the stuff that he's got out. Because what's cool about being friends with a bait painter is you get texts like, "Dude, check this pattern out," and it's like. You're like, what do you think of this? Should I do it more green, or do you like the dots? Like, that's actually one of the things I like the most about like the friendship I have with Chris is that he'll send me some like weird Chinese bait that has like seven limbs off the side of it, and he'll be like, "Hey, dude, I painted this today," and I'm like, "What is that thing?"
And
like,
I'll say this too. You know Sean, right?
oh yeah,
Well, he's going to start painting soon, and
really?
oh yeah. So I'm because the man can draw.
Yep.
You know, he's very artistic, and I'm super excited once he starts getting the flow and starts getting the technique of his airbrush down. I think you're going to see some cool shit coming out of him too.
I want to do, if I can, when I get up there, I want to have you teach me a basic bait, because I want to try to see, like, have you just teach me something simple, or like just because I've never even used an airbrush, so it'll be interesting to film that and watch me suck at painting, because it is not easy.
Yeah, I cut up hunks of broomsticks.
Okay.
And, you know, because I wanted to learn how to paint on like contour.
Yep.
And how to use like the overspray, and you know, so I figured without wasting a bait, using hunks of broomstick would be more efficient than, you know what I mean? Because it has those curves and contours to it. Yeah.
Dude, but yeah, definitely. I want to, when I come up, I definitely want to try. I'll do it on a broomstick or whatever, dude. I might even bring up some, even some plastics or some baits here that just are junk that I don't freaking use anymore, and even just paint over top of them just to practice on an actual bait. But I definitely want to try it, because honestly, it's a rabbit hole I shouldn't go down, because then before I get home, I'll have ordered a freaking compressor and a sprayer, and I'll have, dude, I bought I didn't buy it. I'm getting it for Christmas. I'm getting a diesel, one of those like Chinese diesel heaters, for my cat for ice fishing, but I've also got it so I can do plastics, because last year, dude, using that little buddy heater in that uninsulated shed, it was so cold in there that the baits were actually like hardening in the molds before I could get them to dry, because the baits were, So I was having to like literally stick my molds in front of the freaking buddy heater to warm them up before I shot them because they were so cold that they would stick to the bait. So I'm going to be doing some live streams with plastics, but I went down that rabbit hole hard. I can't imagine what would happen if I figured out how to do some basic patterns with an airbrush.
Well, that's what happened to me when I first started. And I was painting down in the basement during the winter. I'd have to go down and turn my heater on and put all my paint in front of the heater and give it about an hour and then go down and because my paint would be so thick from being so cold.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll definitely have Chris on again. I'm definitely planning on, like I said, I'm planning on making a whole big, if you guys like that series where I went to Cayuga, I'm going to do a similar series where I go to St. Lawrence, where I'm going to film, some stuff hanging out with Chris, checking out the shop, maybe get some, at least footage of what a real bait painter looks like, and then show me painting a broom handle and then how badly it looks. And then we can kind of do some fishing footage and anything else.
I say we paint a bait, we clear coat it, and then we go shoot content fishing with that bait.
I'm down. Absolutely. Yeah. That'll be fun.
All right. Well, it was good to talk to you, man. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, dude, it's been a while since we talk once in a while on the phone, but I think it was probably about this time last year that I got you on the actual podcast. It was probably roughly around this time, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think it was right before trade show stuff started, but yeah, we'll definitely, I'm going to be doing this weekly. So just like a little bit of housekeeping, guys, I'm going back to Thursdays. There's about 15 people that do podcasts on Tuesdays, and I was competing with like Bailey Agbrett and a bunch of other people. And my boy Maine does his on Tuesday. Tweezy does his on Wednesday, so I don't want to interfere with him. So we're going back to Thursday night. So the fact that you guys are hanging out with me and not watching football humbles me quite a bit, because I started my podcast at the same time as Thursday Night Football and you guys were all here watching it. So that means a lot to me. But we're going to go back to Thursday nights. I'm trying to go weekly. That being said, I will not be doing a live stream on Thanksgiving. You guys go eat your turkey with your family. I have no intention of getting in the way of that. And we'll be back, after that week. I'm definitely not doing a Thanksgiving show, but we'll definitely have Chris on again very, very soon. And like I said, we may even start doing some of the preliminary work on designing the bait that I want to have him make for me, because I have some ideas based on he was talking about that bait from Nate. Nate sent me, I saw that bait long before it was released. He sent me some of the
did he?
Yeah, he texted me some of the prototype stuff. He was like, dude, I'm making one with eBay. Here's some of the photos of it and stuff.
That thing is tricky as hell.
I bet.
Because he took the colors off of like a skirt from a chatterbait. And he's like, here, make a jerk bait out of this. And I'm just like, oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, how do I color match that? Yeah.
Yeah, he gave me a tough one, but I think we got it.
That came out really good. Yeah, that's actually what I was like, dude, I got to talk to him about that. It's funny because it was like, you did that with him. He had texted me, and then it was like probably like a month later that you had called me and said that you had done one with him, that you wanted to try to do one with me. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm definitely.
Yeah. So when I sit down and I create a bait with somebody, and real quick, because I know you got to go, but I don't like to put somebody else's stuff out there. I leave that up to them. If they want to share it, if they want to put it out there, and that's what I think. I'm a firm believer of not putting somebody else's dirty laundry out in the street,
Yep.
Your business is your business. And that's why I did a lot of stuff with the guys with the MLF and stuff like that, or MFL. Because I'm not like, hey, I painted this for this guy, or I painted this for that guy. You know what I mean? I just, okay, they're just any other customer. Here's your baits. Good luck. I appreciate your support. No,
and that's why I want to kind of show it though, because it's cool the way it comes together. Because it'd be like, dude, can you make this but this black, and can you make this section, but can you take this pattern from the bait that you made over here but put it on, like, that's what's cool, is you really get that like custom bait that's yours. And that's what's neat about it, is like, because I know I've fished a lot of baits that have been like, man, if this bait only had like a little bit of chartreuse on the belly. And it's one thing with a plastic when you can do that with a marker. You can't really do that with a hard bait. It's not, I mean, I guess you could start scribbling on it with a Sharpie, but it's not going to stay on there very long before it wears off, you know? So,
No, it's, and I'm a big component of blending all your colors naturally. You know what I mean? And I wanted to ask you how that did you do that with Pete with Stone Man yet?
not yet. So I'm actually planning on that's actually a little sneak preview for you guys that are watching on the live is I do plan on going. It's kind of like a same kind of deal I'm going to do with you, but I'm going to go there and do a film with him and have him paint up a bait and kind of film it and show some of the stuff. He does some really cool patterns too. He
Yes,
has
he
some really
does.
pretty neat stuff.
Yeah, he's a good bait painter. I kept
Actually,
was like,
speaking of Dark Horse, he's got a lot of stuff in Dark Horse boxes too. He puts a lot of stuff out for them too.
yeah, but he paints in that style, that pattern too that I like. That's, you know, his natural ones look natural. You know, this and like he has that out of the box kind of mentality as well. He puts out some nice work. I was always hoping to run into him at one of the shows and never did.
New England. If you go to that New England one, he said he's doing that one.
Yeah.
So you'll if you're there, if you end up doing that show, I'll make sure he stops by because he told me he's doing that show, the New England show.
Yeah, because I got to meet Paul with different baits at the New Hampshire show.
Yeah.
He's a super nice guy too. I enjoyed talking with him.
Dude, have you ever used Rabid? The baits with like the fur on them?
Yes, I got like 6 packs of them.
Dude, I met the owner of Rabid at Dick's the other day.
Oh, did you?
It was so random. So I was just picking I actually picked up line just because I needed some more line because I bought a new reel. And I was just messing around and I grabbed a couple of baits and he comes over and he goes, "These are pretty good." And I'm like, "Dude, I haven't had a ton of success with it yet." Dumbass me. Literally the owner of Rabid was like, "Yeah, dude, I make these." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Yeah, dude, I ended up like, his shop is like 30 minutes from my house.
Oh, no shit.
I had no idea this dude was out of Vermont. Yeah, he actually literally is out of Poultney, Vermont. But I'm actually planning on trying to get him on a show soon too. But yeah, dude, it was just such a random encounter. He's like, "Yeah, this is my company," and I was like, "What?"
If you can find a small enough jig head, because the nose on those are flat.
Yep.
So, and I wish he would make that same style, but with like a rounder nose for like a drop shot bait.
Yep.
But I get these like little mini jig heads that I use that for like a Ned rig.
Yep.
Oh, and that little tail that flutters. The only ones I buy are the purple ones, like the June bug with the purple tail.
Yep.
And
That's what I
throw those right after, I don't know, like a month or two after like the bluegill spawn, because they have that color. But
you know, it works really good in those rabbits too. And I didn't catch any fish on it, but I used them really late in the year. Is he has the little craw? Have you seen those?
No.
He has a little craw. It's almost like a TRD front, and then it's got 2 little like kickers that have that fur on them. He's got it in that purple. Dude, they work really good on a chatterbait mini.
Yeah.
It's actually sneaky on a chatterbait mini because it's the right shape and size for that. And because of that fur, it kind of just barely kicks and it actually looks really good. I had some hits on it, but I didn't catch anything on it. But that's something in the spring I'm definitely going to play around with.
Yeah, because I mean, they're good for a fall drop shot when the weather's cold because they don't have a lot of they don't have a lot of movement, you know.
No.
That tail does, but it's because it's kind of a stiffer, soft plastic.
Yep.
But
yeah, exactly.
I tell you what, they make, like, if you're throwing like a BFS setup or something, that would be like the perfect like little Ned rig.
Yep.
So.
Yep. But yeah, guys, as always, me and Chris start. This is how every conversation with me and him go. He'll call me and be like, "Hey, you got like 10 minutes?" And then like 2 hours later, he's like, "Yeah, dude, I we should probably go now."
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, I really appreciate everyone taking time to watch this video. For those of you that were over on Instagram, Twitch, the other 5 platforms that I'm streaming this to, if you guys want to interact more, come over to the YouTube side. The chat on all of those applications do not stream through. So Instagram is the only other one. I'm literally looking at 3 other screens to try to keep track of the chats, and I'm not that coordinated. So if you guys want to interact, be part of the show next time, come over to the YouTube, watch it over here. If you want to watch it over there, that's fine. Just understand that I can't watch chat on 4 monitors and still pay attention to what Chris is saying. I have way too much ADHD for that, and I shiny moment, and I can't do it. But I want to thank Chris for coming and hanging out. I will definitely put a post up once he gets maybe what I'll do is have him send me some photos of the stuff that's going up in the shop, and I'll do a quick video to let everybody know that stuff's coming up. But it's going to be once he gets caught up. So
I will. Yeah, once I get caught up, I will be putting out a post that the website has been replenished. And happy Thanksgiving to you and your family if I don't talk to you. And it's always a pleasure, bro.
Absolutely. So yeah, guys, I will see you guys all next Thursday.
All right.